Okay guys, I'm back. As you can hear in the background, we've got some Taylor Swift playing. I will be asking you guys for your requests for different musical selections. My go-tos are obviously Taylor Swift. You don't have to worry about any bad lyrics or F-bombs being dropped. She's a classy girl. And then sometimes I like some wrestling intro or theme songs too. Yeah, Undertaker is a common theme, and some others. So this is some information that's not in your notes. Okay, this is some of the stuff that I've learned from experts in the field. Okay, this one's from Joe Nystrom. I think he's an excellent presenter. I certainly learned a lot from him. So this is something that I would strongly suggest that you copy down into your notes. I'm going to check to see that you did this, okay? Because really good examples that can show you how to deal with these two things, marginal and conditional distributions. So we're going to look at what are called contingency tables, okay, or two-way tables. So here we go. So we're going to look at a couple of variables. We're going to look at gender, and we're going to look at music preference. Okay, and we're going to talk about hip-hop, and we're going to talk about top 40, and we're going to talk about country. Okay, and then we're going to look at your gender in terms of male and female. I know that that's changing. I may have to change my examples as we move forward in the future, but for right now, that's what we're going to do. If I offend you, I apologize. So, in terms of hip-hop, we're going to say that there's 10 males that like hip-hop, and there's going to be 10 females that like hip-hop. And we're going to say there are 30 males that like top 40, and we're going to say there's 20 females that like top 40. And then we're going to say that there's 20 males that like country, and there's 10 males that like, or 10 females that like country. So you're going to say, well, hip-hop, they like the same, and then males like top 40 more, and males like country more. Well, that doesn't make sense. Males can't like everything more. Okay, if you're looking at some things, there has to be some things that females like more. So in order to do this, what we have to do is we have to come up with our totals, okay? We have to come up with our totals. So if I do my totals here, I've got 10 and 30, and 10 and 30 is 40, and 20 is going to be 60, and I add these up and I get 40, and I add across and I get 20, and I get 50, and I get 30, and I get 100. Okay, those numbers should all add up, okay? Okay, so we found the totals. Okay, so now they're going to ask you something. They're going to ask you some questions, and here's going to be our first question. What is the marginal distribution of music preference? Okay, I apologize for my handwriting. You guys will find very quickly my handwriting's terrible. But the good thing is you can always pause your video and go back and listen to what I said if you can't read something. What is the marginal distribution? What is the marginal distribution of music preference? Notice, they didn't say a word about gender. They didn't say anything about males and females. They want to know the marginal distribution of music preference. So that means we're talking hip-hop, we're talking top 40, and we are talking about country. Now, we can find some numbers in our chart about this. Okay, I can find that hip-hop has 20 total, okay, and top 40 has 50 total, and country has 10 total. I'm sorry, 10, country has 30 total, excuse me. So, but that doesn't tell us much. Okay, now where did I find that information? I found it in the margins, 20, 50, 30. That's why it was a marginal distribution. Marginal distribution you find in the margins. They wanted marginal of music preference. Here's music preference, so we look at the margins for music preference, and those are found right there. But it's much usually we talk about these things in percents. We're trying to relate them. We're trying to say, do more people like hip hop or top 40 or country or whatever? So we're going to talk about a marginal relative distribution. So when they talk about marginal relative, all of a sudden we're getting into percents. So that's this over this, this over this, and this over this. So 20 over 100 for hip hop is going to be 20%. And then top 40, this over this over the total, it's going to be 50%. And then we're going to say country is going to be 30%. So of the people that were surveyed here, 20% liked hip hop, 50% liked top 40, and 30% like country. So that gives you some information. Where did we find that? It was a marginal distribution. We found our answers inside the margins, okay? So another question, okay? What is the marginal distribution? We'll do another marginal distribution. What is the marginal distribution of gender? So now we're looking at gender and we're looking in the margins. So I'm going to say males and females. Well, we've got 60 males and we've got 40 females, but we like to talk about the marginal relative distribution. So we're going to say the males are this over this, which is 60 over 100, which is 60% or 0.6. And this is going to be 40% or 0.4. Okay, so the marginal distribution of gender, well, we've got 60% of them are males and 40% of them are females. Okay? So, now we're going to get a little bit more in depth with our questioning. We're going to move away from the marginal distributions and we're going to move into the conditional distributions. Okay, so for number 3, the question I'm going to ask, what is the distribution? How is, distributions, how you break something up? How do we break up music preference for females? Okay? So this is a condition. They're giving us a condition. They're saying we're just worried about the what? Are we just worried about the music preference? Or are we just worried about the females? We are just worried about the females. That's what we're worried about. And distribution means breaking it up. We're wondering, how do you break up music preference for females? So where do we find our information for females? We find our information for females in this column, in the female column. So if I go right to the marginal distributions, and I'm talking about hip hop, and I'm talking about top 40, and I'm talking about country, and again, this is just for the females, just for the ladies, okay? So where do we find that? We find that here. Conditional. Condition means inside. We get our answers inside. Marginal, outside, in the margins. Conditional, inside. So what percent of females liked hip hop? Well, that's 10 out of 40. And I would say 10 over 40, and that's 25%, and that's hip hop. Top 40, well, that's 20 out of 40. 20 out of 40, and that's going to be 50%. And country, that's going to be, again, 10 out of 40, 10 out of 40, and that's going to be 25%. Conditional, they gave you a condition. They wanted to know how these two variables are related, okay? Conditional distribution. So they could ask you, what is, number 4, what is the distribution of music preference for males? So I want you to take a look at that. Pause the video and try it. See if you can get it. See if you can get it. I bet you could. I bet you could. I do. Okay, I do. So let's see what we can do for that. Hopefully you paused the video. We're back. So what are they asking you for? Up here, they were just worried about females. Down here, they're just worried about males. It's another conditional distribution. It's the males. It's the males column. Hip hop, 10 out of 60. And 10 out of 60 is roughly 17%. Top 40, 30 out of 60. That's going to be 50%. Okay? And country, 20 out of 60. And that's going to be 33%. Okay? All right. Now, another thing they can ask. Question 5. I'm hoping I have space on here because we need that chart. I might slide it up. What is the distribution? What is the distribution of gender for hip-hop lovers? So the people who love hip-hop, okay, the people who love hip-hop, how is gender broken up? Distribution is how everything's broken up. So where do we look for this? Where do we look for this? We're looking at just the hip-hop people, just the hip-hoppers, right here. And how is it broken up? Well, males is 50%, 10 out of 20, and females is 50%, 10 out of 20. Okay? So, they could ask you some other questions. I'm going to try to squeeze 2 more in here. So, what percent of males like hip-hop? What percent of males like hip-hop? Well, let's look at just the hip-hop, and that's 10 out of 20. Okay, what percent of males? Okay, so that we're not saying what percent of, we're looking at just hip-hop. We're looking at the males. What percent of males? What percent of males like hip-hop? Okay, so we're looking at just the males, not this column, not this row, this column. That's 10 out of 60, and that's 17% of males. Okay, like hip-hop. Now, if I asked you this question, this is a little different. What percent of hip-hop lovers are male? So look at just the hip-hop, and what percent are male? That's 50%. Okay, so that's hopefully going to help you out here with the marginal and conditional distributions. We're going to have some notes on that as well, and you'll have some homework problems on it. So marginal, conditional distributions. All right, you guys got it? Good.